The story begins with someone shouting that they hate this. At that moment, a blue aura seems to return to the body. The boy opens his eyes and suddenly rises from the bed, obviously out of breath. You can already imagine what happened. He's wondering if he hadn't died and why his body feels warm again. Besides that, his hand had no calluses, as if it were 10 years ago. That's when he looks around and realizes he's in the university dormitory. Immediately, he grabs the pillow, takes his phone, and sees a girl dancing. He unlocks the bed and notices there are no scars on his face. You already know what happened. Yep, the bastard. Reincarnated. Right before the apocalypse starts. He remembers what happened when he became the 10th war god of Dragon City. 2 other war gods from the neutral field invited him to party. However, in the middle of the conversation, suddenly a high-level zombie broke in. In the moment he was fighting the creature, he was struck from behind, and the 2 Dan war gods helped the creature kill him. Then a girl approaches and asks Lindsay if he liked the gift he received from her family. On the ground, he asks why she is there. That's when he found out that demons had made a deal with the Leaf family. The girl named Yo Jing was the prettiest in school, and he was always happy to have her by his side. What he didn't know was that she was only with him under orders from the young master of the Leaf family. They used him as much as they could, and when he started getting too strong, they finished him off. This was after he helped the Lee family become one of the 3 biggest in Dragon City, but now he's back in the present with a combat power he had. He could easily have gotten rid of the Lee family, however, he never imagined he'd be betrayed like that. But now he's back at the moment when she was still just his girlfriend. Then he receives a message on his phone. Yo Jing says she's going to give some lessons to children, so she won't be able to celebrate his birthday with him. However, poor Lindsay already knows that at this time, the only lesson she was giving was through the touch of the Lee family. On that date, he received a video gift that was unforgettable, man. It seems our boy was a major cockled. He says it's fine, but that first he wants to meet her in the shed behind the school because he misses her. She says she'll go because it's his birthday. But it has to be quick. He knows that the guy she's involved with, called Lee, Howe, seems to want revenge against him because of things his father did long ago on that day. In the past, he had planned a lot of things to celebrate with Yo Jing. However, what he got was a video that humiliated him, but now the rascal is reborn and won't let that tragedy happen again outside. Everyone was wondering why the sky was red. Obviously, no one suspected the apocalypse was coming, but Lindsay knows that at 700 in the evening is when it would all begin, and the people there don't know that very few of them would survive. He then heads to the school's shed. He angrily opens the door at the back of the room. Is Yo Jing sitting on a chair? She says he has to be quick because she has to teach the kids, but he already pulled the blade from up his sleeve and says not to hurry as he's going to deliver a little gift. Now, slowly, he starts getting closer and she tells him to spit it out because otherwise she's leaving, that she has better things to do, but suddenly he grabs her by the throat now. Desperate, she calls him a crazy psychopath and tells him to let her go. But he says that on the 16th of March, she spent 53,000 at a modern hotel in Modu. Right after, on the 29th, she spent another 109,000. Yuan, confused, Yu Jin keeps asking what he's talking about. He continues talking about dates and amounts she's been spending. That's where she starts realizing that these hotel names all seem familiar. He then says that on the 13th of April, she spent 409,000 at the Magic Bar. That's when she realizes these were all records of the dates she met with Lee. How at that moment she asked him to wait a moment, that she's going to explain everything. He responds that he's very eager for that explanation. He grabs her phone and unlocks it. There's a message from Leo saying she's excited to meet him and telling her that the fool believed she was going to teach the children. Obviously, that's all Lindsay needed to see. He then suddenly releases her, puts her on the ground, and plays a video. Before the video starts, he says Lindai is the foolish boyfriend and congrats Ratul Artes him a second later. The video says exactly the same words, wishing him a happy birthday in the video. She asked why he believed that a beauty from the school like her would fall in love with a loser orphan like him. Terrified, Yo-Jing starts wanting to know how he already knew the whole message before hearing it. Lin Ziki repeating the message. She says that if it weren't for Leo, she never would have gotten involved with trash like him. The poor thing is going crazy. She didn't send that video to anyone, so how does he already know? She then says in the video that if it weren't for him, she never would have gotten involved with Lei. How then she thanks the loser? That's when she realizes everything had been revealed. Lindsay just keeps staring. If the next question is whether she isn't curious about how he knows all of this, she stands still for a second and pushes his arm, telling him to go to hell. However, Lindsay says that's exactly where she belongs, and man, I thought he was going to forgive her, but the boy doesn't go easy at all. The girl turns into a bowling ball and falls to the ground like a piece of trash. With that, our guy lets out a sigh. He falls to the ground, kneeling, emotional because it took him 10 years to achieve this. He starts laughing, saying he was deceived for 10 years, but he finally did it. She had paid the price for everything she did to him, but obviously that wasn't enough. Now was time to kill that damned Li Hao, who's hiding in the Li family, and that's when the famous Overpowered system shows up in the apocalypse. He looks at his phone and sees it's 65. It was supposed to all start at 700. So why was the system already showing up? The system only says it's there to provide a better gaming experience. Some digital circles begin appearing around him, and then the system tells him to request his first ability, not just an ability, but actually a super hack. What he receives is the absolute item drop. This makes it so that any creature he kills has a 100% chance of dropping an item, considering that everyone else only has a 1% chance. This was clearly overpowered. While others would have to kill hundreds of zombies for everyone he killed, he gets stronger. It was so good that he even asks the system if he can trust this. The status window activates, and it clearly shows his super hack is turned on at that moment. He's already excited about how strong it is. The guy who translated, "This must think I'm a magician to read this stuff upside down, you bastard." But what matters is that our dear Lind Z is pumped to destroy the L family. The only problem is that he's just a lonely orphan, while those guys have a giant family. Not only do they have tons of soldiers, but also some secret techniques. Not to mention, he's always wanted to know exactly why the Li family hated him. The plan before was to gradually get stronger without anyone knowing, and only then attack that family. But now, with these hacks, he won't have to wait so long with that. He leaves the shed, and our boy doesn't forgive his wife. You know, sir, the kid got his revenge. In 2 chapters outside, everyone's finding the sunset beautiful, talking about how they need to make a heart and take a nice photo. Our boy laughs, saying they have no idea that soon enough they'll be eating each other, and not in a good way. But the rascal is heading to the Love Hotel. He gets there, asks for an hour in a room, 3 bottles of water and 5 buns. The guy says okay and gives him a price, a $40. Hardboy says to send the talented and hard-working member, 3 already in the room. He knows there are 5 minutes left for everything to start. He remembers that in his past life, this number 3 became a zombie boss. Luckily, he managed to finish her off, and that's how began to evolve. Obviously, this is the best option, so he's going to repeat it, especially considering the system's talent. Someone at the door says member 3 wants to enter for the service. She comes in, all dangerous, saying he's handsome, so it's going to be worth it. But she stops for a second and is startled. She approaches our boy and asks why he's wearing so many clothes over his epidermis. She's not a traveler, but she already wants to explore the mountains and asks what he's waiting for. But our Sigma boy tells her to take a shower first. As soon as she leaves, he notices she has that rotten zombie smell before the apocalypse began. You could tell it was going to turn just by that smell. The trap approaches the door inside. She's telling him to stop stalling, that she knows he wants some water fun, but our boy drags it out, so she turns off the shower. Right at that moment, his phone rings, signaling it's 7 to wow. In the same second, her body begins to be infected. Her pupils dilate and she starts getting green skin, already making those classic zombie noises. Our boy opens the door and sees her transforming. She reacts immediately and turns toward him, running to disarm him. But with 10 years of experience, he just gives one strike to the neck. The poor thing's head hits the floor. The system even shows the window saying she's dead. He lets out a sigh. And here comes the system, right? My boy with that. He finally receives the welcome to the apocalypse game. Once it's activated, there's no stopping it. And he has to find a way to evolve. Zombies have excellent hearing, but terrible vision. 80% of the unlucky ones instantly became zombies to help him out. The system offers more tips. Killing creatures would help him level up, which would allow him to gain new abilities, attributes, and talents. Besides that, every creature he killed had a small chance of dropping an item of various ranks. Furthermore, all scientific advances and human weapons were going to be useless, so it was best not to even try using them. Not to mention, it would be impossible to communicate with any kind of human-made device. If you got bitten, you turn into a zombie. Moreover, it was best not to go out at night since the zombies were much stronger. The system says it's given enough tips and that they'll probably only talk again in about 7 days. The last tip the system gives is that for now the zombies are all pretty weak, so it was good for him to take this chance to evolve a lot. Lastly, the assistant wishes him good luck and tells him to enjoy the game. A window then pops up for him to enter a name. Our dear Lind Z decides to use the name G. It must have something to do with revenge from what the guy said with that. He is congratulated for killing a zombie and receives 1 experience point and 1 gold coin. Man, wasn't that supposed to be the zone boss? Besides that, he was the first player to kill a zombie and earns the first blood achievement in his past life. He didn't get any of these global achievements, but in this one, he's already gotten the first. The system announced to everyone that GI was the first person in the world to kill a zombie and earn that achievement. A blonde girl named Gao is shocked that she hasn't even finished reading the message and people are already killing. And another guy named GG says it's crazy that someone is faster than him in this system. You can evolve strength, mind, physique, and agility. He's impressed by the base stats and already knows it must be because of that achievement, besides that the prestige stat is used so that in the future you can get more discounts and buy different items, and the first talent also makes his first attack after midnight everyday deal. Double damage. After going through all this system stuff, he decides to check the loot from the first zombie. He got a meditation necklace that gives 1% more mine and 10% more recovery. His eyes light up. Seeing that the 100% drop really works, it seems the hack is separate from the system since it warns him to be careful so the real system doesn't find out he has it. But seeing the necklace, he knows that for now, he needs to get as strong as possible. And the best place to start cleaning up is this building. He then starts walking down the hallway. Something catches his attention. There's a racket coming from one of the rooms. Slowly he approaches, turns the handle, and inside he finds a transformed guy. Obviously this is a zombie of a guy who went to the gym, so it's a bit stronger, but for him it's still extremely weak. He dodges the first attack, ducks under the second, and finishes it by going straight for the throat on the third. However, even after being struck, the creature still tries to charge at him, and the guy grabs its face, but he dodges with a quick spin with that. The second zombie was killed. However, our boy is sad that he didn't manage to kill it with just 1 attack. As always, the 100% drop comes, and there's another low box inside. There was a card that was a voucher for cooked steak, that when activated the food appears in front of him. Obviously, it wasn't very rare, but it wasn't bad to have food either. So if he stores it in his inventory, he approaches a suitcase on the floor and takes out a photo of the guy with his daughter, seeing that the guy had an axe. You could tell he was a mechanic. He checks room 208 and then 207. He doesn't find anything and heads to the door of room 206 and kicks it in. He shouts that it's time to clean up, but he's confused by what he sees. The couple was so eager that even as zombies, they continued their fun. Our boy Ewing closes the door saying he forgot the activities of that place. But he opens it again and says it's crazy they're doing that, even as zombies. The angry zombie lunges at him. He dodges, saying he wasn't trying to spy. The big guy keeps coming at him. He says he's too arrogant for someone so weak and delivers a blow to the head, hitting him right in the eye. The other one tries to come from behind, but the boy has swag and kills without even looking. 2 more experience points and 2 more gold coins, and best of all, 2 more loot boxes. Now the rascal realizes that this thing really works in his past life. 100 zombies were equal to a bottle of water. While in this one, nothing is better than having luck on your side. He receives 2 cards that activate an ability that allows him to detect movements within 10 minutes since he's in a place full of runes. He uses it right away, then someone climbs to the 2nd floor saying that Basta is making 2. Much noise tells him to kneel down or he'll get smacked like a son. But Lindsay easily dodges, and if you think he's going to let that punch go for free, you're very wrong. The chubby guy spins around telling him to stop dodging and start begging for forgiveness. Our boy says it would have been better if he had turned into a zombie, because at least that would have given him some experience. It's a pity, but he had to end it. Now what a ruthless guy. He paints the corridor red. Still a psychopath, he says that in the apocalypse you can't leave loose ends, and the reason for this death was the guy being so weak. He starts going to various rooms, knocking on the doors, asking to be let in. Obviously no one opens, so he goes to another and says the delivery has arrived, but none of that is working. As he approaches one door, he hears a disgusting sound, and he gets excited, saying, "There's a zombie in there." He shoulder bar the door open and finds a big guy already transformed inside. He tries to land a hit, but this one is agile and manages to dodge. The zombie tries to claw at him, but he ducks. Taking advantage of being on the ground, he pulls off a papra move with the zombie's arms raised. He slashes its throat. With that, another one is down as always. He gives another item. This time, he had earned a liquor with that. He continued rummaging through the rooms. Eventually he found one for himself, since it wasn't a good idea to go out at night. He took off his jacket, and who would have thought our boy is fully leveled up. The system notified him that he needed 6 more experience points to reach level 3. The problem was that when he looked at his phone, he saw that Atwa was approaching, and the zombies would evolve, causing him to miss the chance to level up, knowing how dangerous it would be to survive the night. Without that, he rushed out looking for 6 more zombies in the shed. He saw a message from girl number 3 that would solve the problems if there's a number 3, and he's already killed another. That means there's one more, since zombies had good hearing. There was an easy way to find them by hammering until they came to him. He then hears a sound in a room. At the back he enters, and inside the room seemed empty, but then from one of the vents he starts hearing a noise, and he says it's crazy that they hid so quickly on the stairs. There are 2 zombies trying to climb up, however they have poor control over their bodies and end up falling off with that one smashes into the other like 2 idiots. Our boy feels sorry for their hard work, but for him, what mattered was something else. He quickly goes down and finishes off the girl. At that moment, another one comes from behind, but easily he turns and finishes another one. 2 more experience points. And now the problem is that his knife is starting to get dull. But look at that golden glow coming in to give him that little item. For sure, he receives a horizontal cutting sword from the Tang dynasty, as well as 2 delicious buns. The sword gave him 1 more strength point and even removed 10% of the target's defense. He knows that soon these weapons won't be worth anything, but for now it's great to have something like that. More water is stored in his inventory. 10 minutes remain before the real madness began. With no other choice, he had to take a risk on the streets. As soon as he opened the door, he found some poor sap who was about to be sent to the afterlife. The zombies noticed him right away and started running toward the hotel. But at level 1, they were still dumb and bunked into the door. The others came from behind and ended up tripping like fools in his past life. He spent the first day drinking and hiding out of fear. He only fought the level 2 zombies, which were much smarter. But in this life, he got the perfect chance in 1 second with the new katana. He wiped out the entire group for the start of the game. The quality of that weapon was excellent with those zombies taken down. He advanced to level 3 and received another attribute point. Then he heard another zombie sound. Another one approached, and he realized that this one seemed a bit smarter. Or maybe not that smart because she walked right into the sword, but at least it was worth it. As she dropped a skill book, then his alarm went off at 8 p.m. Something had arrived in the same second he felt something, and immediately back an explosion occurred at the hotel's entrance. It was another level 1 zombie, but now affected by the power of the night. The system tells him to be smarter with time because now everything had become more dangerous. He knows that this zombie will continue getting stronger for the first minute. And since he knows this, he has to finish it before it follows him into the room. He goes in for a full force strike, but even with the upgraded sword it gets stuck. He puts his other hand on it to try to push it through, but man, the zombie exerts force and pushes it out. Our boy has to retreat immediately, and the worst part is, now he only has his small axe left. He's not crazy enough to get close, so he throws it like a boomerang. Man, it gets lodged right into the damn thing, while the creature is still distracted. He gets closer to grab the katana. He quickly pulls it out and slashes. The creature is already covered in cuts but still intact. It stares at him and starts running toward him again. Second of silence for the artist who is fired by Chapter 10. Because the art style had completely changed, but we're still continuing from the same moment our boy steps back and swings again, hitting the neck. Finally, the damn thing falls to the ground. At least these zombies are drawn better than the others. Our boy begins collecting all the items, especially since he can't be seen by anyone else after 8 p.m. Zombies are at least 50% stronger. He starts piling the bodies at the entrance, afraid that more creatures might approach, especially since he made a lot of noise. So there's a good chance others will come. He activates some sort of sentry, which will turn red as soon as a creature appears. With that, he can finally relax and decides to take a bath. It's time to open the 4 boxes he had received: a night ring, a bottle of mineral water, and 2 eyes of approval. He can't get used to this life of luxury, considering how much he starved in his past life. Especially the night ring, which increases agility by 1 and reduces his presence by 30%. It was finally time to take a look at what skill he get from that book. The system congratulates him and informs him that in this world, anyone can have unlimited skills. But the reason for that is because it's extremely difficult to obtain one of these books, usually between levels 10 and 80. People typically receive 3 skills, and the worst part is that many of these skills don't even suit the people who get them in the past world. The guy known as the God of Skills had 25 after 10 years of fighting in the apocalypse. In his final moments, he had reached 10 skills and was stronger than 99% of people. But the most important thing about all this is how good the skill you receive is. And then comes what Lindsay got: the boomerang SL skill basically. He can throw his weapon, dealing 12-20% damage. He's excited since the best skills are always the damage dealing ones, even though for now it has a long cooldown as his mind attribute increases. That will decrease the system. Asks if he wants to learn the skill. Obviously he accepts immediately, and he decides to test the skill. But as soon as he stands up, his stomach growls. It's better to eat something first. Luckily his inventory is full of options, so he eats, saying that this food tastes like something from a 5-star restaurant. Look at the boy organizing everything. The table is even clean, looking at the movement. Knows that in this life he's going to have to do things differently or he'll fail again. He opens the system and grabs a pen on a sheet of paper. He writes warrior and mage. The difference between the classes is that when you level up, the points go to different stats. For example, a mage, every time they level up, gains 2 mind attributes. Additionally, there are secret professions like Ghost, which 1 in 100 people usually receive in the past life. Without much knowledge, he managed to get it, so it probably won't be that hard this time. And in this world, you usually activate the profession system. When you reach level 10, the ghost profession specializes in assassination and adds points to strength and agility. He begins writing down all the classes he remembers from the people who became war gods, looking at the stats. He wonders which would be the best option. He then puts 3 more points into strength and 2 into agility, and starts trying to recall all the times he encountered a paladin knight. He also remembers a diamond item with that. He spends the night trying to recall all the treasures and experiences that could help him. A scene shifts to a mansion. San throws a vase against the wall. A blue-haired guy says he can't calm down with the whole planet being ruined because of Yo Jing. Because of her delay, the material hadn't worked out and he won't be able to finish off a Dan Lin Zhe. Not to mention to him this Dan apocalypse is nonsense. The butler asks him to calm down as making so much noise could attract zombies. But Leo just asks if it wouldn't be better to send that trash Lin Zi to meet his father. Already, the butler knows the boy is trying to eliminate any future competition for the position of family leader. The problem is that with the start of this apocalypse, he needs to control his personality or he'll suffer Leah. Then asks if his father's team of mercenaries isn't coming to find him once they arrive in the city of Amodu. They can meet up with those bastards later he's going to find. That damn Yo Jing, even if she's dead, and bring her corpse to make that. Dan Linde Suffer the butler says all of that would be possible since the mercenaries were trained to obey him. Imagining the scene, he gets all excited. Meanwhile, our boy is coughing, already prepared. He jumps out of the hotel outside as expected is full of zombies, but in daylight, they're still much weaker. He draws the katana and uses boomerang slash. This way he kills several creatures in the city until he finally reaches level 4 for that bunch of level 1 zombies. It was all too easy for him not to mention the combination of the skill, and that sword was perfect. The only problem is always the high cooldown, which is making him waste a lot of time. He then decides it's time to do the most important thing, obviously opening all the boxes he had received in one of them. There was an attribute item actually. This story is crazy, because what it contained was a bronze item that upgrades equipment. Lindsay gets excited, saying this is useful. He immediately uses the item on his sword. With that, it becomes a Tang sword +1 now. Instead of ignoring 10% of defense, it ignores 15% the points. He immediately go into strength, and in a nearby box, the system congratulates him for winning a hidden mask. It allows him to hide his level and basic information for 30 minutes and can be used twice a day, considering that he doesn't want to be discovered. It was a very useful item. He equips it, and the system congratulates him. Man, this boy is lazy. He killed the zombies and laid on the ground. He knew he needed to rest to reach level 5 before nightfall and challenge a certain place. Obviously, we're talking about the Legend AR dungeon, right? The author said, it's not gonna have everything and it's sticking to the same story, man. Besides the normal dungeons, there are unique ones that can only be done once and have better items. But for now, it was time to head to LY Village. He also dropped a precise watch and equipped it right away with that. He continued on, finishing off a few more zombies, walking through the village. It seemed empty. He quickly noticed a door with a massive lock man, but his blade was sharp. He just gave it a slice. He entered the house and started looking through the rooms. Then behind a door he saw a red puddle. Slowly he opened it, and at that moment a hand came toward him with his little sword. And now level 5 he easily cut it off, but something caught his attention, and when he looked to the side there was a hand coming through a doorman. The zombie went crazy and broke through as well, but our boy calmly slapped each one. He kept walking through the house, and at the back he saw a girl in a family photo. If I'm not mistaken, this is the one who was called Gio earlier. He walks down the corridor saying that in this world, you can't show sympathy for anyone. He opens the system to grab a meal to eat, and as always, he sets up a banquet man. I've never seen an apocalyptic protagonist as chill as this one. He looks at his phone and sees that on the way to the dungeon, he'll probably reach level 5. He's tired of resting and gets up. He hears some noises and approaches the door. He knew he wasn't going crazy because he heard footsteps. Meanwhile, outside is Gui, the guy with the nose bandage and gel, the girl with glasses. They could smell the good food inside and were curious to know how that was possible. While our boy was just listening from the side, preparing to leave the house, Jigger said, "The wrong move is stealing from others like that. Gabby says they're not going to steal. They'll just ask if he doesn't hand it over. They'll beat him up." Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but our boy is just watching G from behind, observing all this. And this guy isn't known for letting others walk away alive, another one of them. JJ says the boy is a thief because he broke into their house. Chaw is angry because when her parents and brother became zombies, she locked everything up and ran away. Now she came back starving that the guy took everything excited. She says fine, they'll have to take a little from him too until blood falls on her face, man. Our boy doesn't waste time and whipped the idiot right in the back. What a move. The guy was sent straight to the afterlife. This boy doesn't forgive anyone. Lindsay says he was trying to save energy, but couldn't let them attract more zombies to the area. Man, he throws the katana, flying, and finishes off the girl too. My friend, he even kills another one, man. Even I'm scared of this protagonist. He not letting anyone live. I introduce everyone's names thinking they'd last more than 2 chapters. Our boy looks at Juka G and says that someone who abandoned their sister is a waste of life. He had to finish them off since they were planning to rob him. This guy is seriously unhinged. He walks away saying the government should reward him for his pure actions. And with that, the house was wiped out. The street, as always, was full of zombies. Some were climbing a building from the window. A woman says she sees a superhero. Another one shows up and tells her hide, so the zombies will stop gathering against them. But you can bet that outside an expert was passing through everything. The problem was that it wasn't possible to see his name and title as he leveled up. The girl says that's irrelevant. They should shout and ask that guy to save them. My friend, I don't know you. If I could give you a tip, don't call for this guy. He's more dangerous than anyone, but the husband says that if he's hiding his information, something's off. Suddenly our boy receives some hearts and a little dance on his phone. And from the top floor a girl appears calling out to her big brother, obviously offering help in exchange for being saved, but our boy completely ignores her and continues down the street for him. Those little items on the ground were much more important. The girl starts cursing him, saying she has over 30,000 fans, so he shouldn't be ignoring her. The crazy one says she'll make him pay and grabs a vase. Girl, don't do that. You don't know where you're throwing that at. But there she goes on her way to the next life. Obviously our boy senses something strange. He steps aside and the vase crashes to the ground. She turns all sweet, saying she's just upstairs and scared of the zombies, so he needs to save her. She even offers to hold his hand. Girl, I don't think he's very interested in that. He then pulls a piece of meat soaked in zombie virus from his inventory and throws it at her. That thing has the effect of attracting any creature within 100 memes, but the girl isn't happy with that at all and starts cursing, asking if he didn't understand that she wanted to be saved, until suddenly she hears a noise behind her. There was a horde of IES attracted by the meat, and with that, another victim of our boy. The crazy girl was even live streaming on TikTok in the middle of the apocalypse. Soon we're going to need a new protagonist to take down this one, a hoe of zombies, then started throwing themselves off the building heading in his direction. The creatures fell to the ground all twisted, but he kept walking calmly. He then made his way to the Moodoo Gymnasium. That was the place he had been looking for, and in 2 hours, when night falls, it would be the perfect time to enter. He knew that besides that, there was a wild silver ranked chest in that place. The system displayed a warning saying that when you see that sign, it means there's some special system happening. Wild chests were a type of treasure that could appear anywhere and anyone could open them. On the other hand, a boss chest contained much rarer items, but at the same time it was much harder to obtain. As soon as he entered the gym, he received his first mission to defeat 100 zombies on his own. The problem was that in that place there were only level 2 zombies, and killing 100 of them wasn't an easy task. The initial plan was to sneak around grabbing each of the chests, but now that he got the mission, he'd have to do it. However, being lazy, he asked the system what would happen if he just ignored this objective. The system said that if he declined the mission, he'd receive 100 gold coins as compensation, but obviously the reward for completing it would be much better. He then went to a room and broke the lock. Inside. He found the basketball zombie, and it was time to start the 100 kills. As always, a step forward and a stab to the face. But man, the thing tanked the stab. He had to deliver another one to the mouth. At least, that bastard finally dropped the basketball. Our boy finds it ironic that the guy must have turned into a zombie while playing basketball, and continued with the ball in his hand. And as always, the 100% drop box came. He gave the body a little kick and went to grab a super flashbang. Obviously it's just a flashbang, but super, not much mystery there, but he got excited since for invading other people's houses it's the perfect item. He also found the key to the gym center that was good because he wouldn't have to destroy the door and could enter quietly without attracting everyone with that. He calmly moved in. He observed the area, which was full of zombies in the darkness. The creatures were all slow and blind. Williams ran to the ping-pong table and hid underneath from. There he started counting and discovered there were 17 zombies just in that room. It was a dangerous chance, but it also meant 17 item boxes. If he could be silent, no other zombie would come in. He only needed 4 more to reach level 5, and then everything would become easier. One was walking right by, and he decided that would be the first. He gave a whip to the back of its neck. The first one fell to the ground, and with a noise all the others were alerted. They immediately turned toward Lee Z. Now the horde was rushing toward the boy, but the rascal was under the ping-pong table chilling. They came closer, and he whipped 3 of them in the legs. The boy jumped out from under the ping-pong table with a maneuver. Not sure why he did all that swag, but he landed right behind them. He dashed forward and finished another one with that. He completed 4 zombies in advance to level 5. Now he needed 100 experience points to level up. Knowing he was in a tight space, he'd need more agility. He placed the point and climbed onto the table with that. All the zombies started heading toward him, but since they were dumb, they got stuck at the edge, and it was easy for him to whip them in the face. Meanwhile, someone was watching from behind the door. A guy in a red shirt and bandana said he was an Ewan guy. Man, I agree with you, and if I could give you a tip, it would be to run away from here. The biggest danger has arrived. But the crazy guy was excited, thinking that a person who kills so many zombies must have a lot of resources. His plan was to wait for our boy to die so he could take everything, but that wasn't happening. The number of zombies was decreasing, and the blonde guy realized he'd have to help our boy die. He'd do the great favor of bringing more zombies to help send him to the afterlife. At that moment, another one entered the room. Lindsay was thinking he made too much noise, and now someone was banging on the door where the blonde guy was hiding. Seeing the door damaged, he knew it wouldn't last much longer. He needed to eliminate the zombies in front of him and quickly retreat. But at that moment, 3 of them jumped at him. The Parker King pulled off another stylish move and spun away. The problem was that more and more zombies were arriving, man. He made a shish kebab with 3 of them. He'd ran to rest under the table and saw that. Nearby, he had picked up a single-use potion that would restore 20% of his energy and an additional 5% per minute for 5 minutes for him. Who was tired was perfect. As soon as he got up, he threw the sword, finishing off another one. This time he saw a strange black box and quickly ran to grab it inside. There was a bracelet that allowed him to summon a spike skill. Once a day, he knew skill equipment was rare and equipped it immediately. At that moment, the door finally collapsed and a horde of zombies began approaching, but for him, who had just gotten that item, it was the perfect moment. A bunch of zombies was coming his way. He jumped onto the table and waited for them to get closer. Then he leaped over them all and activated the bracelet from the ground. A ton of giant spikes suddenly emerged, and he said that now the game had really begun. Several spikes kept shooting out of the ground, taking down zombies. That ability was as powerful as a level 20 mage's. More zombies came from behind, but the spikes easily finished them off. It looked like that thing was going to keep killing, and he didn't need to do anything. He received a bunch of items and experience, and the ability went in to cool down the system. Explained, it would take 24 hours to use it again, but he could also use mental energy to strengthen it. And as always, it was the best time of day to collect all the boxes. He found a Fortnite bazooka that allowed him to throw any object 30 meters away, as well as boots that increase movement speed by 20%. For 10 seconds, the number of attributes he had was greater than someone who had already unlocked a class. This meant that at this rate he had at least double the status points of most people. Another wave of zombies started approaching. He loaded that piece of meat soaked in zombie virus into the bazooka, fired it, and it drew all the creatures' attention. They moved to the corner of the room, and he activated the boots ability, easily leaving the fools behind. Sometime later, he was sitting on the stairs exhausted. There was only 1 hour left until 8 p.m., and he knew how dangerous this place would become. First, this lazy madman needed to find a place to rest. He kept walking down the corridors using the master key he had received. But before opening a door, he wondered why it was locked from the inside. He knew this was the gym's infirmary, and considering the time it closed, it shouldn't have been locked. He opened it, hoping he wouldn't find another idiot who wanted to kill him. Slowly, he entered the room, and immediately there was a sword in his neck, with someone asking why he had the key to that place. But our boy just grabbed the arm and squeezed the wrist. With that, the blonde guy dropped the knife, and our boy said he messed with the wrong person. A step back, and he twisted the guy's arm. I thought he'd finish him off right then, but instead he stuffed a cloth into his mouth. He opened his inventory, grabbed a curtain, covered the window, and told him to turn on the lights out of nowhere. And Mur appeared, saying that turning on the lights would attract a lot of zombies. He didn't give her a choice, and another person in the back of the room ended up turning them on. If I had to bet, only the girl and the tights would survive. The blonde guy recognized our boy as the person who had been killing a bunch of zombies, and he had wanted to steal a loot. And Lindsay told him to stop looking at him arrogantly when he was so weak. Come closer. My blonde friend, I think you're headed for your next life. Our boy said he doesn't like people who hold grudges and slash the guy's neck. The people in the infirmary were all terrified, and somehow the girl had lost her tights out of nowhere. Our boy then pulled a knife from the guy's sleeve, said that this guy had been preparing to kill him, and told them not to worry, he's a good person. Of course, everyone agreed, saying yes, he's definitely a great person, but in truth, they were all scared to death. Lindsay said he's a reasonable person, and that if they didn't try anything against him, he wouldn't kill anyone. Then someone stepped forward. Could it be that our boy finally gained some company, or will there be another strike and another victim? The girl put her tights back on, came forward, and said everyone saw that the boy deserved it. She asked the others, and they agreed, saying yes, of course he deserved it. Lindsay smiled, saying it was good to know everyone agreed with him. He realized he was much more tired than he had been in the morning. As a good lazy person, he told everyone to clean the room because he wanted to rest. Obviously, no one was going to go against the boy. He wrapped the blonde guy up and buried him in the ground. Our boy was just watching the Queen of the Tights, saying he had seen her somewhere before she was still at level 0, and her name was Jang Yaku. When he saw the name, he seemed to recognize it. In the past life, when he was down and out, she had already received a legendary profession known as the God. Doctor all messed up. He had told her he'd do anything if she could heal his wounds, but she warned him that the wound on his face involved the soul, and couldn't be treated every time he was messed up. He found her and asked for treatment. Her weakness was that even though her profession was really good, it made her nothing more than a tool for others. She remembers that in the future she ended up becoming a very different person than she is now. Maybe it was fate that brought them together again. Suddenly they heard a sound coming from the air outside the door. Everyone armed themselves, watching to see what would appear, while Lindsay was calmly looking at his watch. Then he pulled out 3 cards and placed a feast on the table. Man, he started eating. Obviously, everyone in that room had been starving for a day and was drooling. Yeksu swallowed hard, asked where he got that food and if they could have a little. Our boy smiled, saying it looked like she had fallen into his trap. He said that to get a little of that she'd have to help him. Everyone was still excited, but the Queen of the Tide said to just tell her what he wanted, while she was already afraid he'd asked for exactly what you're thinking. He showed her a paper and said he wanted all the medicines listed there. Slightly excited, she asks if he really just wants that. He says yes, unless she's looking to offer something more. She says, obviously not, and she's going to collect everything. Now the two guys are mechanics, and he quickly gives them a list of things he wants them to produce by 6 a.m. tomorrow. He hands over the items they'll need and tells them that what they'll receive in food will depend on what they produce. Obviously, he needed to be cautious, so he activates the watchful eye. The guy's inventory was packed with items. He still had 22 days worth of experience to reach level 6. He had 24 hours left to complete the mission, so he decided to rest a little. With that might fell the next day. He woke up. The others obviously hadn't slept at all, spending the entire night producing what he had asked for. Artmo praised everyone, saying they had done a great job. The doctor patted the nurse on the shoulder, who looked almost dead from exhaustion. He handed a card to each of them, saying that now they would need to fight. Yeksu was thrilled. She thought that when they finished, he was going to kill everyone, so she already had an escape plan. Apparently, he wasn't as cruel as she had imagined. Certain to tell you, girl, but he's actually worse than you think. She then asked how to use the card, and he realized that no one really knew what to do in this world. Yet he decided to help her a bit more as a favor for everything she did in the past life. He showed her the system and how there's an option to use the card to make everything appear. She saw that and got all excited with that. Everyone activated their cards and began to feast, seeing how lost she still was. He decided to give some tips, just in case she might be useful in the future. He told everyone to flee from the place after noon. That's because by then he would have killed all the zombies. He reminded them not to forget the time. Exu told them to be careful since there were a lot of zombies outside. However, he said she should worry a little more about herself when he stepped outside. Indeed, it was full of zombies, and there was a horde nearby, but after a whole night of rest, he was ready. He struck the first zombie, and it dropped a fishing rod. He didn't let the body hit the ground, trying to attract as few zombies as possible, and with that, he started cleaning up the corridor. It didn't take long before he was heading toward the door. He opened the list and wondered how the zombies were pulling this off while being dead. The poor zombie was just chilling in the bathroom, but as soon as our boy approached it, turned and started running. However, with its pants down, it fell to the ground like an idiot. Lindsay finished off another one. You had to be careful because in the gym people had more trained bodies, so it was common for them to also be stronger. He then saw the women's restroom. He approached cautiously, worried there might be someone alive in there. Then he snapped back to reality, thinking it's the apocalypse, and it didn't matter if he liked the women's restroom or not anymore. He slowly started entering. He didn't find anyone at first, and began checking each stall, until in one he heard the sound of 2 creatures. When he opened it, he saw that the romance had continued even after death. It was a shame, but he had to end that connection. They sensed the attack, but easily missed. There was a bottle on the ground, and once again they tripped over it with that. He finished off another 2. This guy isn't quite right in the head. He even started taking pictures of the couple. He strangely seemed to recognize them. It seems that in the past life they always hunted together and had a kind of synergy that made them unbeatable. But it was a shame that this time they died on the 3rd day without accomplishing anything. As always, it was time to check the loot box. It was a fusion card that allowed him to combine 2 items to create a new one, possibly even Yuang to silver a rank. He then looked back and saw a strange light coming from one of the stalls. He approached it and saw a chest floating above the pentagram that was the wild chest, and he would need to stay there for 30 seconds to open it. He waited for a bit, and a green apple appeared. He started praying that it would be some kind of strength or agility item. He checked the description, and the item increased his physique stat by 2 attribute points, which was basically health. He would have preferred agility, but at least it wasn't that bad. He washed the apple and ate it right away. Excited that in this life, he's eating much better than in the past. He left the restroom thinking that this place was giving him a lot of good stuff. Outside, he encountered another crowd man this time. He really saw the whole crowd. He moved to a corner to avoid attracting all the zombies at once. As soon as 2 of them approached, he whipped them in the neck. 2 more came, and they went down too, man. This kid is making it rain with these creatures. He's spending all the resources he could. Some strength inside a box. He found a lion bracelet. It gave it 10% chance to intimidate a person for 1 second, causing their movements to freeze the system. Then showed all the equipment slots and explained what could go into each one. He immediately equipped the lion bracelet. Slowly, he resumed walking through the gym, casually sipping a juice. That's when he opened a room full of zombies or maybe dead doctors on Mount Shore. He comes to the conclusion that based on the injuries and the way the disaster was caused, it could only have been a zombie boss, a type of creature much stronger than others of the same level, and one that usually feeds on humans, and the absence of humans even feeds on others, zombies. The stronger the creature, the easier it is for it to become a zombie. That's why I have 1 trillion mosquitoes. Only one turns into a zombie, and usually mutated animals also hunt zombies. Then he notices something based on the numerous cuts on the body. It seemed like a zombie cat had done this. This was always one of the types he hated most, since they had extremely sharp senses. If that creature was around, it probably already knew about him, so maybe he'd walked into a trap. He focuses, trying to notice if something's approaching. That's when something seems to alert him. The second he opens his eyes, he almost gets grabbed by the cat. He barely dodges and throws his boomerang sword. Not only was that a mutant creature, but was also a boss. The creature had incredible agility and could create false images, reducing damage by 50%. It also had talents for a sharp attack and heightened vision. The list of attributes for this thing was long, and Lind Z knew this man would also give a good reward. Even though it was a difficult creature, he still had 10 years of experience fighting things like this. The hack system detected the zombie cat and gave him the mission to kill it. The mission was called the Ungrateful Zombie Kitty. That's because the gym used to rescue several cats from the city, but after the apocalypse started and one of them turned, it went on a killing spree. The mission would give him the same amount of experience as killing 100 level 1 zombies, man. The true system kicked in, and then the hack system reactivated the mission, boosting the reward. Now, instead of earning 100 XP, he would get 300, and he had 24 hours to complete it. He started finding it strange that this system was being so generous. He remembered that in the past life the system was full of tricks. It always promised things would be easy, but when he got there, it was an invincible creature at first, a 1% item. Drop chance didn't seem so unfair, but when people started forming groups, everyone realized the rewards were enough. However, he on the other hand was getting extremely good missions. Compared to normal, obviously he accepted it. He had 24 hours to kill this ungrateful cat, which was calmly licking its paw. He knew this animal was a counterattack specialist, so he couldn't just charge in. So he sat down, pulled out his phone, and started reading a mana. When he laughed, the cat lost its temper, stood up, and jumped at him. At the same moment, Lindsay also stood up and jumped back. Dodging the attack, he transformed his phone into a katana, and the cat retreated, but then it came at him again. Once again he dodged and found an opening to strike its back. But the cat smiled, saying that although he was clever, he never imagined it already knew his moves. It dodged again, but our boy found a chance to cut its claws immediately. The cat said it wouldn't forgive him for hurting it like that. But our boy just said that without claws it couldn't win. Suddenly the cat activated an eye ability. Our boy knew that would pull him into an illusion. He found himself in another world with a giant cat full of limbs on its face. But for him who had lived 10 years in an apocalypse, this was nothing. The cat was confused that the boy wasn't scared. Our boy slashed its eye, breaking the illusion. At that moment, the creature tried to flee, but of course he wasn't going to let it escape. He threw his boomerang sword, whipping it in the neck, and the boss was killed immediately. He completed the mission, gained a ton of experience, leveled up, and even earned an achievement. Everyone in the city was trying to figure out who this guy was. Receiving announcements all the time, the author thinks it's cool to have a girl saying she wants to marry him even though she doesn't know who this crazy guy is. Another person says they prefer to stay anonymous. Meanwhile, someone drinking wine knows that the name means he's probably from Dragon City, and having an expert like him in their group would drastically increase their survival chances. All this commotion was because everyone found out he killed that beast. He knew that the more attention he attracted, the more he would have to hide. Suddenly, he pulled up a chair and sat down. Obviously, the lazy guy needed to rest a bit after the fight. He was impressed he managed to win without getting too injured, but you have to be more careful for killing the first boss. He earned 1,000 prestige points and 1,000 gold. At that moment, he had a total of 2,000 prestige, 5,000 gold, and 4 attribute points to spend. The bronze Lamama title gave him +2 in all attributes and reduced the resistance of all other creatures by 5%. However, to equip that, he'd have to give up the first kill tile since it gave more attributes. He ended up switching and wondered how strong he would be when he changed professions. Half an hour passed. The boy was so lazy that he rested before going to claim the chest inside it. He found a zombie kitty horn. When blown, allowed him to summon a zombie cat to help him for 30 minutes every 48 hours. The good part was that the cat would have 60% of his protagonist's strength, and everything it killed would count for him. The only downside was that the key wouldn't have the 100% drop rate, but for him, who was walking around alone, having a companion to distract the creatures would be perfect. Of course, he knew that the claw's eye, skin, and everything else from that cat could be used to make good items. So he tossed the carcass into his inventory. A while later, he headed to the warehouse because he remembered that's where the silver chest was. However, when he opened it, he was horrified. It was full of skulls and some eyes scattered on the floor. It seemed like the zombie cat was the one who had done all that. Only in the apocalypse could there be a creature that collected everyone's eyes. He knew that this little thing liked a hoard, so he started looking around to see if he could find more treasure. He spotted a dumbbell stuck on a treadmill and wondered if that was the cat's toy. Besides that amazing innovation, there wasn't much else in the room. The only thing left to check was what was under that white sheet, and to no one's surprise, there was the silver chest that should have been in that room anyway. He gained 20 prestige points for finding it, but it would take 60 seconds to open. I don't know why they put a timer on it, when they always managed to open it on time. Inside, he found a white cloak and a skill book. The book granted him the double slash ability, which caused an explosion, dealing 70% of his attributes. The tricky part was that you needed to land both hits, but he was confident in that. Immediately, he learned the skill, and out of the 5 skills he equip, Ina had 2. He also received the white Wii cloak, which allowed him to glide once every 20 minutes. Look at his inventory, already getting fully equipped. However, the design of this thing is awful. It looks like a half-block chicken. He said the plan was just to kill Li Hao and leave the rest of the family alone. But why do that when he could send everyone to hell? Yeah, my friend, this boy isn't exactly a good guy. Now the only thing left in that place was to complete the mission of killing 100 creatures, entered a room, and closed the door. He knocked on the wood, and all the zombies turned toward him. He activated the chicken cloak effects, saying he was eager to test it out. He jumped in front of the zombies and the boy took off. He swooped down like Michael Phelps in a dive, landing a hit on their heads. He gained momentum, gliding to the other side while looking stylish, man. This gliding is more like flying. He's just hanging there in the air. Then he said it was time to test out the new ability. He pointed at the zombie and unleashed a slash in its direction. Two zombies were instantly taken down, and man, that ability really caused an explosion. Even he was surprised by the mess he made. His endless glide finally ended, and he had to land to avoid being thrown far. He was impressed that the zombie resisted much more than he expected. This ability had the same speed as the boomerang, but it was way more destructive now that he finished his experiments. It was time to start taking things seriously. We saw a bunch of modifications of him receiving gold. He kept clearing the entire gym, farming the whole place in no time. There were piles of zombie corpses, but he started to realize his luck was running out. As the poor guy was only receiving resources, he was so lazy that he decided to pick up the boxes after everything was done, even to receive the system's rewards. He sat down in a chair. He was going to receive a hack and new equipment. He asked for the equipment first to save the best for last. The system started announcing that a bronze rank item was being created. What he got was a blood absorption ring which turned 5% of the damage he dealt into life restored to him. He quickly realized that now, against low-level creatures, he'd be practically immortal man. Pretty soon, this boy's going to be an e-boy with all the rings. He's equipping. Funny thing, though, is you can't see any rings on his fingers. He's just wearing that ridiculous chicken cloak. He then told the system it was time to get the hack, and he wanted to see something good. Of course, it would be the famous hook, but we'll only find out in the next chapter. He was shocked to see the perfect hack for him. There was basically an auto-collect hack that picked up everything the creatures dropped. He already knew that from now on, all he had to do was kill, and everything would come to him for a lazy psychopath. This was perfect. He was worried that people would see him killing creatures and notice that he always collected a bunch of boxes. That's when he asked the system what the deal was. With his hack being at level 1, the system explained that if he got the same talent in the future, the level would increase. However, he was more excited to get something different. Next time he looked at the pile of dead zombies and decided to do a test. As he walked among the bodies, all the cards automatically went to him, and the hack was so good they even organized his inventory for him. Now it was perfect for anyone with ADHD, all mice and tides side by side. That's when he realized he'd been in this place for too long. He needed to head to the Leaf family's village and start his revenge. The scene shifted to the Lime Mansion. Leho was lounging on the couch, happy as can be, while everyone else was suffering in the apocalypse. But suddenly, he glanced at the clock. He got up and slapped the first person he saw, demanding to know where those two idiots had gone and why they hadn't arrived yet. The butler explained that the two guards being sent to him had encountered a horde of creatures at the university and would be delayed. Leho was furious with those damn zombies for ruining all his plans, even more considering that he killed one of those zombies and didn't get any experience. What he did was ask the bodyguards to leave some zombies almost dead just so he could deliver the final blow. But he wasn't sure why he received so little XP. That's when they heard a sound nearby. Someone had arrived at the door props, at a forgetful artist who suddenly changed the kid's hair from blue to blonde. After 30 chapters, he asked Rong, standing in front of him, if she had found the damn girl, and that Orphan Ron replied that they found the girl, but the boy had already disappeared. The blonde told him to bring her in because he wanted to scold her for hiding, but Rong threw the suitcase on the ground and said she was already dead, and that she was inside. The blonde's face changed instantly, looking horrified. Rong explained that they found her body in the warehouse behind the school, and next to it was a man's bloody clothing. He also noted that she seemed to have been tortured in all the most painful places before she died. Rong was about to explain more details, but Leha ran off asking for a bucket. At that point, Rong said that whoever did this probably hated the girl a lot, and he added that whoever did this might come after Liao as well. Leho just missed the idea, saying it must have happened because she was the prettiest girl on campus. Then he remembered that the person who probably hated her the most for everything she did was Lindsay. But it was impossible that Lindsay was that strong, being an Orphan without anyone's support, they still hadn't revealed the big surprise, so there was no way Lindsay could know she had been betraying him. Rong asked if this Lindsay was the son of Lion. Leo said yes, and Rong replied that whether strong or not, Lindsay had someone extremely skilled helping him. Maybe the 100 bodyguards they brought wouldn't be enough. Leo asked how that was possible. Possible if Rong was one of the top 10 strongest in Dragon City. He ordered Rong to either go back to training or bring more bodyguards. Do whatever it took to make sure he didn't die, Rong reassured him not to worry that he would risk his life to protect him. Man, Rong said he's willing to die for this kid. Clearly he's not too fond of living. Meanwhile, in the forest, zombies were falling one after another. Our boy had already reached level 8. He was impressed by how quickly he was leveling up without even entering a dungeon. And now they were standing face to face with Liehouse's mansion, eager to settle the score with the bastard. At the mansion, troops were patrolling everywhere our boy was, expertly hidden up in a tree. He climbed down, crossed the lawn, and pressed a secret lever with that, a passage that few knew about. Opened up, even with so many guards in this place, they didn't stand a chance against someone who knew everything. As he got closer to the house, he observed in hiding. He quickly recognized the group as part of the mercenary guild in his past life. This was the group Lee, how trusted most and the one he hated the most. It's a shame that he had been watching this family for a long time, so far. The troop seemed well organized, and he hadn't found many weaknesses. But then, something caught his attention. He recognized that man as the infamous Rong Jun. In his past life, this guy became a war god and was always the leader of the mercenaries. Eventually, Li Hao ordered this guy to hunt him down many times. He found himself surrounded. Rong was definitely one of the worst enemies he faced. However, he had escaped Rong so many times that the guy even earned the title of the Disgraced. It was probably fate that they met again like this. At that moment, Rong sensed something. He turned around, and our boy barely managed to hide. It was dangerous, but it would be perfect if someone so crucial to this family died early on. He put on the mask that hid his presence, and at that very moment, the guards passed right by him. I knew that thing helped hide his presence, but damn, the guy was standing right there and nobody saw him. Our boy was anxious not to miss this opportunity, but Ron remained alert, wondering why he had this feeling that someone was watching him. He told the others to increase security around the place, thinking he needed to kill whoever was nearby. Time passed and was already midnight on the sofa. In the living room, Liho said it was ridiculous to think someone was out there. It was sure there were only zombies outside, but Rong said it was better to be cautious because he was certain they were being targeted. Lee Hollow threw his watch on the floor, calling the guy a bastard for taking so long to come and kill him, making him lose sleep. One of the servants said that if he was so bored they could find something for him to do. The excited one said she had an idea and asked Rong if he hadn't captured a zombie today.